Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to our vanilla Minecraft world, and today we're going to try to finish up this enchanting cavern that we started on last time. And realistically, I think we're most of the way there already. The cave itself is in place, and while it does need to be tweaked, I need to experiment with the lighting a little bit more, modify the leaves a little bit, stuff like that. Despite that, it is mostly done already, right? The cave itself looks okay, we have our fog down at the bottom, the spire going up the middle. Everything is at least roughly in place already. There are a few big changes I may want to make with the cave yet. I want to experiment a little bit with some ideas to make the cave itself feel more magical, and we'll get to that in a little bit. But we also have to finish up our enchanting area itself. So we're going to use this layout with these kind of pillars of bookshelves around the outside, and that's fine. That means that our enchanting table is full powered and everything. But we still need to work on covering up these bookshelves. Now, as you may recall last time, we did make these stone maps that we can kind of cover the bookshelves with, and that just makes them look like these weird stone pillars that are still powering the enchanting table in the middle, which is really cool, but we're still not done with that idea yet. Because, as I said last time, I want to add some symbols on top of these maps to make them feel like they have some kind of runic symbols carved into them and make them feel just a little bit cooler. So I'm actually going to head back over to our map area where we built this, and I'll explain in a little bit more detail what we're going to do over there. So here we are at our giant stone map texture thing. Here's what it looks like on the map currently, obviously. And now we need to add in our runic symbols. So there's a few different options for this, and I've thought about it quite a bit. One of the options was to have a giant runic symbol in the middle, which would look kind of cool, but that has some really severe issues, the biggest of which is that then we would need tons of these maps to be made. Because if we just have big symbols in the middle, it means that the symbol itself is really prominent, and if we reuse the map, it'll be really obvious. So because we have so many different spots to fill in our enchanting setup, it wouldn't be really practical to do that. We would need at least a dozen different maps to make it not look like we were just reusing them over and over and over again. So I don't think we're going to go that route, because that is an insane amount of effort. What we're probably going to do instead is make 2 columns of symbols, one down each side. So down the left side we'll have, 2 or 3 symbols, same thing down the right. And doing it that way should both look good, and it should also allow us to flip the map upside down if we want to. And we shouldn't really be able to tell, unless we really focus on the map specifically, that it's just a reused map flipped around. Unless they're like right next to each other, then you might be able to tell. But doing things that way, we should be able to make, say, 4 maps maybe, and we can flip them all upside down and effectively get 8 out of it. I think that'll work out relatively well. The big issue that we're going to face is that I'm going to try and place the runes floating above this stone texture. That way I just have to build out the runic texture itself, and then I can save the map, take it off site, come back, destroy the runes, build the new ones, and get a new map out of it. That is the ideal. The issue with that is that building these things floating above is going to mess with the colors of the stone texture itself. So, for example, if we were to build part of a rune texture above this pixel that we're in right now, this kind of light gray one, if we were to build a rune floating up there, the top pixel of this one, and by top pixel, keep in mind, each pixel on the map is an 8x8 area. So the top 1/8 of this big pixel that we're in right now would be darker, because it would be looking to the north, it would see that there's something above it, and it would shade this a little bit darker. And then, conversely, the top of the texture, or the top of the pixel for the rune, that would be looking to the north, it would see that this here is below it, and it would shade the top line of the runic texture itself a little bit lighter. Now, I don't know how that's going to look. That might really, really throw things off a lot. So, it might be a little iffy. In the worst case scenario, if it looks really, really bad, which it might, if that starts looking really bad, what I'll have to do is every single column of pixels that has a rune in it, or any part of a rune in it, I will have to redo. I'll have to redo the entire thing, or at least a big chunk of it, in order to make the rune fit in. So hopefully it doesn't come to that, because that is an insane amount of extra work that I really don't want to have to do. But, well, I'll see how it goes. So I'm going to go get to it, and I'll bring you guys back in when we're done.
So much faster than more.
All right, so here is our map, complete with one of the rune patterns on it. You probably can't tell what that is quite yet. But in the end, as you can tell, obviously, I decided to imprint the runes themselves onto our stone form. I basically replaced the chunks of the stone with the color for the rune. And I decided to do that after trying out the idea of building the runes up in the sky. That was going to be far more effort than I thought it was. Because of the kind of uneven nature of our stone texture, how some parts go way up, I would have had to have built the runes way, way up in the sky, and then I would have had to connect them together and built all kinds of extra bits of the stone texture and all kinds of stuff like that. So instead, by doing it this way, it was maybe 1/4 the amount of time, I would say. It still took like 4 to 5 hours, but it was way faster than the alternative. So I think it's beneficial overall. The main reason I was avoiding doing it this way is because when I put these down onto the stone texture itself, it means that the shading for them is kind of predetermined. It means that the areas where it goes up is going to be a little bit lighter, or darker, rather, and the areas where it's flat are going to be a little bit lighter, and I had no control over that, really, which means that the symbols themselves are just a little bit less good looking when you really focus on them than they would have been if I built them fully. But I don't think that we're really going to be focusing on them that carefully that that's relevant. So I don't think it's too big of a problem. I think they're probably about 98% as good and way, way easier to do. So in total, I did do 4 maps of this, and I think that'll be enough because with these, I do think we can get away with flipping them upside down. So we do effectively have 8. And because we're not focusing so much on the intricate details of each one, I think we can reuse them for the most part without too much trouble. So that should be pretty cool. I can always come back and make more. Like, doing them this way isn't too terrible, so I can add more of them if we feel like they're just a little bit too repetitious when they're kind of in place on the enchanting table area. So keep that in mind. We can do that if it's necessary, but I think we can probably get away with 4, at least for the time being. That being said, I need to be very careful not to open any of these maps, I guess with the exception of the last one. But if I were to open one of these while I was here, it would immediately overwrite it with the current map layout. So I need to be careful not to open these, and in fact, I should probably just get out of here and get back to the islands before I do something stupid with these. So I'm going to get back to our enchanting cave, and I'll get back to you guys when I'm there. Okay, we're putting in the last few maps that we need now. Let's just take a step back and see how they turned out. Boom. Yeah, I think I like that. It's definitely one of the more unique enchanting systems I've ever seen. So, some of the runic symbols are a little bit bland and a little bit kind of weird looking, but overall I think they're okay. We did have very little space to actually work with to kind of make all of this fit. They had to be very, very low resolution. I could have tried to make them bigger and more detailed, but that led to other problems, and especially with the really limited color palette we had, where there's only really 2 shades I could use in these, it would have been kind of a problem to go any bigger than this. So I think that how they look now is nice. It's a little unfortunate that we still have this birch corner poking out, but I can't really do anything about that in this situation, sadly. We're going to have to picture that as a decorative corner piece down the pillars, I guess. The original plan was actually to make the pillars themselves look like birchwood and have the carvings go in, kind of look like wood carving. But unfortunately, the map color palette only has, I think it was 3 colors that are within the range of birchwood, and it just didn't look good. It was terrible. There was no real way to make it look decent. So we had to go the stone route, and I think it's okay. I think I like that. Now, there is one last thing that I wanted to try here, and that is to put some kind of cap on top of the pillars. Now, with how they are right now, I think it's actually good. I think having them flat is completely fine. But I did also want to try out having 2 different things. One, I wanted to try having, let's see, a piece of stone with a cobblestone wall on top. And that gives it kind of a triangular shape, and it feels almost like a little obelisk, which is really, really cool. But the stone also stands out a lot because it's so much darker than our map texture. So I don't know about that. I think that might be a little bit too much of a jump. The only texture that's a lot closer to that is the stone slab texture, which does blend in relatively well, but I don't know. It almost feels a little bit too clean to me. So I'm not sure. Maybe we should just leave it without one? I don't know. Be sure to tell me what you guys think about that. I'll I'll consider it once I've gotten some feedback. But for right now, I think we'll just leave them without. And it looks okay. Even from above, because there's stone in the top, I think it looks okay. So that is our enchanting setup for the time being. But there's still a few things I want to try out with the cave itself. So I'm actually going to go and get some stuff prepared and sort out my ideas for that. And I'll be back with you guys in just a second. So I did not get the definite answer for this that I was hoping for when I started, but here is what I have so far. Now this is what the runic symbols would look like, I think. This is probably the best look that we could really get with them, at least as far as I can think of. So right here is basically the shapes of the rune symbols, copied kind of from how I did the maps. And inside of them is a cobblestone wall. I tried all kinds of different configurations with this. I tried going a full block in, and that just felt like a little bit too much. I tried coming a full block out with all kinds of different materials and stone types and even gray concrete powder held up by string. And again, it just felt like a little bit too much to have a full block poking out. And honestly, I think that just the slight indent we get from the cobblestone wall is actually really nice. But I don't know if it really conveys the idea of having the symbols kind of carved into the side or not. It kind of does. I like it. I like its simplicity, but I'm not sure. I did also try having the light behind the cobblestone walls, because it does shine through, and it made them look like they were glowing, which was kind of cool, but it also brightened up the walls themselves and made them look like they were just part of the stonework. And it made it lose its contrast. It made it lose the kind of runic symbol definition that it has, which was, I think, worse overall. But that's what that looks like, and I think that's an okay option. The other thing I tried, and we have a guest apparently, I'd have to lower the bottom of the portal, is over here, and I really like this idea, the idea of having cracks in the wall and having the nether portal behind, but I'm not entirely sure that this area is the best use for it. I'm not sure that this area should feel so magical that there's just magic oozing out of the walls behind a crack, you know? So, I don't know. That might be really cool in other areas. We could also do it in here. I don't think it would look bad in here. I just worry that that might be a little bit too much for this room. So, I'm honestly kind of torn, because like I said, I do like both ideas, and I honestly had no problem with the way the cave was before either. I think that having just regular stone walls is completely fine. The only reason I thought that we would try this is that, well, it's supposed to be a magical cavern here, and we needed something to kind of differentiate it from the rest of the caves on the islands, or at least I thought so. But it wouldn't really be bad to just be a normal cave wall like we have over here either, so I don't know. As is usually the case when I am indecisive, I'm going to try and leave that to you guys. I want to know what you guys think, which one you prefer, or if you have other ideas that I haven't even thought of, which is very frequently the case. So that means that for now, we're going to leave the walls the way they are, which is kind of unfortunate. I wish we could have 100% finished this, but we will be able to take care of it very quickly once I know what I'm going to do with the walls. So be sure to tell me what you guys think about that. Now, with that said, everything other than those little wall details is done in the cave, including an area that I forgot to show you last time, or rather, an area that for some reason wasn't included in last episode, even though I did try to include it. Anyway, down here in the back of our platform, behind our enchanting table, there's a little walkway that goes down and into the pillar itself, and then starts going down a staircase. We can hold a torch to light up our way, thanks to Optifine. I didn't bother lighting down here, because I think it was a little unnecessary. But this goes all the way down to the very bottom of that chasm that we made earlier on. Lighting? Yes. And it leads to a little bit of a room. Now, this room is actually just going to be a very small storage room for enchanted books. Basically, I have so many enchanted books, and normally I just throw out the ones that aren't very good. Let's go ahead and just throw a torch in here temporarily. Normally, I just throw out the rubbish books, sort of. Not all of them, but a lot of them, because I just didn't have space. All 3 double chests in my main storage room for books was completely full, actually. So what I want to do is just throw some chests down in here, and just be able to fill them up with all the enchanted books I get, because I hate wasting stuff. I really, really do. So if we can just store all of our books down here, that would be a massive, massive help. So that's what this area is for, just so you know it's here. I'm going to go ahead and put the rest of these chests down and empty this shulker box of enchanted books that I brought with me into them. And then I'm going to go back up and start working on the cave that leads into our enchanted cavern, because I want to get that finished up today as well, just so that we have a proper way down, rather than just that little chasm that I built, the little crack in the hole. Crack in the hole? The little crack in the wall where you kind of ender pearl in and out. The cave itself leading down to our cavern is still in rough shape, and I want to get that taken care of. So I'm going to place down the rest of these, and then I'm going to go up there and take care of that, and I'll get back to you guys once we're done. So here is the cave leading down to our enchanting cavern. In fact, here's our enchanting cavern over here. This is the little hole in the wall where we can ender pearl in and out if we want to. And overall, I think the cave itself turned out okay. Could still use a little bit of tweaking, but, well, that's the case with everything I build in Minecraft, I guess. So I think for now it'll do. It definitely looks okay, and it gets us down to the enchanting cavern, which is all it really needs to do. And here we are. Now, once we figure out what we're doing with the walls, if we want them to just be regular cave walls, or have the little rune shapes, or do this portal crack thing at a few more spots, whatever we end up deciding to do, I'll get that in place, and then this project will be officially completed. Unfortunately, that's going to have to wait for another time, as much as I would like to have this 100% done today, both because I would like to get your input, and because I am, as usual, well and truly out of time. I know we didn't get a whole lot done this week, but it's been kind of a hectic one, between a jury duty summons and a family member being in the hospital and all kinds of crazy stuff. It's been a bit of a hectic week. But hopefully next time we'll be doing something new and kind of cool. I'm going to see if I can get that sorted out, and I look forward to doing that with you guys. So, thank you for hanging out with me again today. Hopefully you'll be around next time, and yeah, can't wait to see you then. Thanks for watching. Have an amazing day. Bye-bye.